Hello everyone, thanks for coming out tonight. I believe the title of my talk was Honor Everything, Believe Nothing. This was a saying that I received recently when I was in New York City doing a circling intensive training. Circling is a practice that's very dear to my heart. It's a relational meditation practice that is done in groups. And when I'm there, we do it for like 10 hours a day in a group of about 20 to 30 people. And basically, you put everyone in a room and you just see what happens when you try to be very honest and authentic and present with each other. And oftentimes, a lot of our habit patterns and ways that we relate habitually come out, and it can be really challenging sometimes to be with each other in that space. It can also be very beautiful and very healing and insightful, but it can also be very challenging and great opportunity to see how I automatically, habitually relate in certain ways to people in certain circumstances and have the option to pick a different way. And one of the metaphors that another participant there used was that, I actually saw this for the first time, he showed me a YouTube video, but there are these competitions of cup stacking where you're basically stacking cups. It's exactly as it sounds. And people have mastered it where they can do it in like 3 seconds. They can stack it and break it down from pile of cups to a pyramid broken down back here in like 3 seconds. It's amazing. You should look it up on YouTube if you've never seen it. And he gave the metaphor that he thinks that everyone has their own cup stacking routines, things that we do habitually without even knowing it, that we always do, that we are masters of, that we can do in 3 seconds that might take others minutes or hours or years to do, we can just do immediately. This wasn't part of the course, we were just eating dinner and he was talking about this. But it got me thinking, what are some of mine? And one of them I realized while circling was, I have a way of automatically diverting attention away from me. Attention comes to me, I find ways to dodge and send it back to you. Let's put the attention on you. I'm good. Thanks for asking. How are you doing? And it's not always intentional. It's definitely not always intentional on my part, and it's not always deliberate that I'm diverting it back to you. It can just be someone says, how are you doing? And I go, okay. And there's that subtle undertone of, do you want me to ask you more? Because it sounds like you may or may not want to share more information. And this happens a lot, both in our practice and in our relationships where we have certain patterns, and it's hard to change our patterns. We want to connect, we want to be present, we want to see each other, love each other, and see ourselves and love ourselves. But there is this weird transition point where we're still kind of attached to how we've always done things and how to do a new way of doing it. And in this awkward period, it can be uncomfortable, and it can be uncomfortable for others who are around you. I don't really know what you want, and people don't really know what they want, what I want when we're in this awkward zone. And so one of the circling instructors gave this instruction, you should honor everything that's happening. No matter what someone's expressing, no matter how someone is being in that moment, you should honor that's how they are right now. There's a wisdom and a truth, and there's a logic. It makes sense why they're doing this, even if it's an immature, child-based sort of coping mechanism or whatever it is. There's a logic to why they're operating the way they're operating. But you shouldn't necessarily believe anything they say or anything they express. Doesn't mean you automatically just don't believe people, but you should wait to confirm things before you just automatically assume. If someone says, Peter, do you want attention right now? I go, no, I'm good. That really high pitch, no, I'm good. I'm good, how are you? Maybe question that a little bit, but honor it first. And so go, oh, are you sure? Because it sounds, I get nervous and I get really curious if, I don't feel good when you said that. So I'm curious, or do you really not want attention? Because I can go either way. And it's funny because I noticed I do this all the time when I did interviews with Soryu, where it's not exactly lying, but I don't know what the right word is. I'd go into the interview room and he would ask me questions, or I'd give a report, and sometimes he'll say things like, "Oh, your practice is going really well," or something like that. And in my head, I don't think it's going well at all, but I don't say that. I just go, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe," or he asked me a question like, "Are you gonna throw yourself in to full awakening? Are you committing yourself to that?" And in my head, maybe I've already decided yes. I've already decided that, but I won't say that out loud to him. I'll just look at him and wait for us to bow and leave. It's weird this way that, it's hard. The way we express things it's hard to admit what's true and what's closest to our heart sometimes. And so, there's like this coded language where people's surface expressions might not always match what they're feeling inside. I often find people smile when they're angry, or they say they're calm when they're actually very nervous. And doing circling enough time, I just notice these patterns and learn to not automatically trust anything anyone says, and but also acknowledge. Not just go, "Oh, are you sure? I think you're scared," or "I think you're angry." That doesn't work. It'd be like telling someone, "You're just triggered right now," or "You're irrational," or "You're just upset because I told you the truth." That obviously doesn't work. I feel bad just saying those words. But you want to acknowledge that there's a wisdom to how they're expressing. Acknowledge how they're feeling, reflect back where they're at, get on the same page with them, and know that I'm willing to stay right here where you're at, and I'm willing to go deeper. I'm willing to go sideways, I'm willing to go up or down or left or right, but I'm here with you first, and then and I'm willing to proceed at your pace further down if you want. But I just want to check because I think I'm seeing something. I just want to check that it's true. It's funny, I was like trying to think of examples of this before I came here, and I didn't want to use examples from the monastery since they involve residents. So I was struggling for a while because I've been in the monastery for over 3 years. So, but then I thought my old job in college was I worked in IT help desk for this email company before Androids and iPhones and before Gmail existed, and email was still sort of not fully mature. And so we hosted email for businesses, and I would answer phone calls and emails about problems that would come up. And I know all of us have a pretty bad relationship with customer support. I don't like calling them. But our company was actually very good. It was a small business. We always answered on the third or fourth ring, and I did my best to help everyone. We were pretty good. And oftentimes, some people would call and think that it's our fault for whatever problem they were facing, and might be very angry. So they might call and say, "Hi, I'm a real estate agent. I have been using you guys for years. It's been great, but today the email's not working, and I really need my email. If I have a deal coming closing today. If I don't have my email, I can't close this deal. You're costing me thousands of dollars. Fix this right now." And then I would just begin by acknowledging, honor where they're at. "Yeah, I hear you. I understand email. This is a really important day for you. I'm sorry this is happening. I want to work with you to figure this out, and let's see what we can do here. Could you just give me your email address? And then I would check everything, both on my side and their side. Is the problem on our side? Is it on their side? Let's check, because I don't automatically believe whatever they tell me is the problem. I just thought car mechanics probably have the same problem here. But, and a lot of times I would check, and it turns out it wasn't our fault. I would say, okay, could you access our webmail? Maybe it's your desktop client isn't working for some reason. Can you go to this address, monasticemail.com? And then they go, oh, it's not coming up. And I go, oh, that's strange. It comes up for me. Okay, how about google.com? They said, no, that's not working either. Nothing's working today. And I go, oh, I think your internet might be down. Could you check from another computer or ask around? And they go, oh yeah, Jim just said our email's down right now. Not our fault. Or sometimes it was our fault. And I would check and go, oh, sorry, yeah, so it looks like something's wrong here. I'll get it fixed right as soon as possible here. But the interesting is that I tried my best never to get angry with them. I never said, no, you're wrong, our email is up. It's your problem. And I never demanded an apology or anything like that. And 9 times out of 10, once they feel like there's someone on their side, once they understand, oh, I'm not alone in this problem that I don't know how to solve, that I really need to solve, they would just calm down, feel much more grateful, and we could work together to solve this problem. But it took both sides of, I'm not going to automatically just take on that I'm at fault here, and I'm also not going to invalidate your experience that you're having a really tough time right now. And that's completely valid, and I'm customer support, so I'm here to support you. So that's fine. What else do I want to cover? And of course, this comes up in pretty much, I think, any relationship, any community. Definitely happens at the monastery, where we are constantly giving each other feedback on a daily basis on how to do things correctly, how to give feedback correctly, how to give feedback about feedback correctly, how to make decisions, making decisions, and residents have commented that I seem to have a special ability in being able to see what residents are standing for in terms of what they're taking a stand for, and sort of reconcile different arguments where people aren't really arguing, they're just sort of standing for 2 different important values that are both important, but somehow that's not getting expressed. And so once you see that, you can just say, oh, it looks like what you really care about is that we are financially stable this month, so it's really important that we spend some time doing things that will raise money. And someone else might argue for, we need to practice more, and we need, we're a monastery, we're here to practice. What's the point of a monastery if we're not practicing? You're standing for the integrity of the monastery and awakening, that ultimately our purpose here is to awaken and be a role model for others and to serve other people in this practice. And once you name the values, then usually people are much more calmer, and they go, well, yeah, I understand, yeah, we need to make money, and yeah, I understand, I came here to practice, yeah, I cared mostly about mindfulness. I don't care about them, I didn't come here to make money. I would have kept my old job if I cared about money. But that often is not what we say initially. Often what we initially say are other defensive things. So it takes an eye of not getting caught up necessarily on what people first say. And that's a really good friendship, a really good relationship to have with each other, where we can be honest and supportive with each other. I believe Ananda asked Buddha, is noble friends and companions half of the holy life? And the Buddha said, do not say that, Ananda. Friendship is the entirety of the path, is the is the whole of the holy life. And I know that Forall and others have said that meditation techniques are important. Having a good teacher who can guide you is very important. Those are definitely very important, the Buddha, the Dharma. But the community is also very important. And we have a community at the center, and we have a community here that can practice together, give each other feedback, hold each other accountable. And that's really valuable and important. And a lot of social research these days are showing that your social network has huge impacts, at least correlation, with all kinds of things, whether you smoke, whether you feel lonely, whether you have an eating problem, habits you pick up are greatly influenced by the network that you're a part of. And so it's really important to have good friends, good community, good relationships. If we take it back to the West, thousands of years ago, Aristotle said that there are three types of friends. There's the friend of pleasure, there's the friend of utility, and there's a friend of virtue. Some of you may know this if you've studied philosophy at some point. And so, friend of pleasure is someone that you hang out with because it's pleasurable. Maybe it's your drinking buddy, maybe you play sports together. Just have a good time together. It's the person you just want to hang out with, have some fun. These kinds of friendships often are easily made and easily fall apart, and that's okay. That often happens. There's a friends of benefit or utility where maybe it's a coworker or your boss or a business partner, someone where you mutually benefit in some way, and so it's advantageous to be with them. But mainly you're there because you're getting something, they're getting something out of it, and as long as you're both getting something out of it, let's stick together. But as soon as that goes away, as soon as maybe you sell your business or something, I'm not going to hang out with my employees or my working partner or whatever. It was good. It's not like it's a bad relationship. It's just limited to that arena. And then there's friends of virtue, which are much more harder to develop and take a lot of time and trust and familiarity, which is you both share a sense of goodness, you both share a certain end goal of each other's well-being and cultivating virtue, cultivating goodness, and you're willing to give each other criticism and feedback. If someone is doing something wrong, your virtuous friend is doing something wrong, you're willing to tell them, I love you, I support you. I'm saying this because I love you, but I think you just made a mistake. I don't think that's okay. Does that make sense? And then this is a much more rare type of friendship because kind of putting yourself on the line in a way. And the Buddha also talked about this in the Dhammapada, that you should find noble friends who will admonish you, will scold you, will not allow for wrong action and evil deeds to be done. They'll still love you, they'll still be nice to you, they'll still be understanding and caring to you, but when you do wrong, they're not going to act like it's not your fault. And I know a lot of relationships I've had in the past, especially in college for some reason, but a lot of relationships in the past, there's this thing where, you get fired or someone breaks up with me or something, and then all my friends will say, oh, it's not your fault, they're the problem, you're great, you're great, you're perfect. No one knows how great you are. They just don't see it, but you're amazing, and they're terrible, they're evil, their business is gonna fail, that person's never getting married because she's so bad. But you're great. You're gonna find someone great tomorrow, or you're gonna get a great job tomorrow. It's great, let's drink together and forget about this. those aren't that, that has a purpose. It's not like that's not, I'm not saying that's evil or anything, but that's not as good of a friend as someone who's there for you, supports you, says, yeah, you're hurting right now. Is there anything I can do for you? And then when the time is right, they might mention, would you like some help on how you can do a better job next time? I think you have a habit of always coming to work late, or you often get afraid of commitment and start doing kind of weird things. Do you want some help with that? That's a much more valuable friend, because now you have a partner who's helping you with a problem that you don't know how to solve, and you need to solve it. So it's great when you have a friend like that. Time is flying. Okay. So I've been saying, honor everything, believe nothing. You could simplify this down to one word that I think many of us know. Anyone have a sense of what it is? That's pretty good. Did you say something, Jason? I like that one. That's the one I was thinking of. Trust actually fits very, very well, but equanimity was what I was thinking about. And so Shinzen identifies that there are two extremes. One is identification, where we get wrapped up. Someone says something, we get wrapped up in it, and we just believe it, and we go, oh yeah, that's what they said, so that's what they meant. We identify with it. The other extreme is suppression, where we have aversion, we don't accept it, we don't honor it, we don't believe it, it's wrong, let's get it out of here. And this happens a lot in workplaces, definitely happens in the monastery, where someone might say, wow, I'll use, it's hard to use examples. Okay, I don't want to use examples. There's suppression, and then there's identification. Saying your idea is wrong, kind of slowly saying you're dumb, it's not good. And then identification of, oh my God, we need to help this person. They said that they're kind of tired, so they can't do the schedule. We need to help them out. Just let them do whatever they want. We have to do that. And then the middle, we have equanimity, which in Latin translates to sort of balanced inner state. You're balanced, you're not wrapped up in it, and you're also not pushing it away. There's no conflict. And a lot of times people, when we talk about equanimity, start thinking, well, does that mean I'm just a doormat? That people can just abuse me, bad things can happen, there's so much injustice and terrible things happening in the world, I'm just equanimous and passive, and whatever can happen, and that's fine. Isn't that kind of terrible? I would rather be angry, full of hatred. At least then I'm fighting the good fight. And to be sure, there are some people that say that's what spirituality or Buddhism is, just being passive, and everything is empty, so don't worry about injustice and all that. I don't think that's correct, and I think that's a very evil, wrong view to spread. The way Shinzen puts it is equanimity is with your subjective sensory experience. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? And your subjective experience is already happening. You can either resist your subjective experience, which leads to suffering and tension and resistance, and makes you less effective, less powerful, makes your energy stuck. You're already still stuck 10 seconds ago or 10 years ago with some experience that happened that hasn't been processed or let go of, which is different from apathy, which is when you're indifferent or you don't care about objective circumstances, but objective situations. So in the Christian tradition, there's the whole serenity prayer. May I have the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And so equanimity could be the same as serenity, except it's primarily in this context I'm saying subjective experience, because you're having a subjective experience right now in terms of what you're hearing, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, and you can either experience it fully or not. which isn't to say judgment that you're always supposed to feel everything fully or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's a subjective experience. And then there's still objective circumstances that you have power to change, that each of us has power to influence. The fact that we're in community, we all have friends and family and networks we're part of means we have an impact on the world. And in that way, having equanimity can actually make you more powerful, more capable of bringing about change. And one easy way is by just embodying equanimity, which we train with mindfulness, so that you can be a role model and so that you're more effective. And so when people come to you in joy or in pain, you can honor wherever they're at, really appreciate them for who they are without interjecting yourself into the whole situation, and also poke a little deeper if you both want to go deeper around what else might be happening. So let's practice some mindfulness and practice cultivating equanimity together. Did you bring this? We do that. Okay. So take a moment to stretch up and settle in. For these two guided periods, I'll provide a guided instruction. Of course, if you have a particular practice that you would like to do, then feel free to do what works for you best. But I'll offer a guided meditation if you wish to follow, and adjust for yourself as you wish. Following your breath, try to include all of your experience. Everything that you feel, everything that you hear, everything that you see, allow all of that to be part of your experience. And continually provide an affirmation. Something like accept, allow, surrender, okay. You can choose one or more words and just continually have the experience of whatever you're seeing, whatever you're hearing, whatever you're feeling. You can always go back to your breath if you get lost. But whatever is arising moment to moment, just affirm it with accept, allow, yes, yes, okay, surrender, accept. Okay. In this technique, if you find yourself wandering away into thoughts about the past or future, that's okay. You can just say accept, allow, okay. If you want, you can use breathing as an anchor point, but really allow your attention to go wherever it wants, and just say accept or allow, okay, yes, honor, whatever verb you want to choose is fine. You can include all of your sensory experience, or if you wish, you can also narrow it down to just what you're seeing or hearing or feeling, internally or externally. Maybe you only want to hear the sounds outside, the bird chirping, the fan. In any case, you can just keep affirming, yes, yes, allow, allow, accept, accept. Whether you're having a pleasant experience or unpleasant experience, pleasant sensations or unpleasant sensations, you can still honor whatever experience you're having. Continue saying yes, yes, yes. Allowing the experience to happen. If you feel resistance or feel like you're not doing it okay, you're not doing it right, you're not labeling consistently, that's okay. You just say yes to that and keep going. moment, I'll ring the bell and we'll have a short break, 4 or 5 minutes or so. Welcome to stretch, go to the bathroom, or go outside, or get some water. Whatever you need to take care of yourself, but see if you can continue the practice of fully seeing, fully hearing, or fully feeling. Just saying yes, or accept, or allow every experience moment to moment. So once again, if you already have a meditation technique that's working for you, feel free to use that. But I'll guide us in another exercise if you wish to join. For this one, we'll have background equanimity. The last exercise, we were focusing intentionally on having equanimity with every experience that was coming up. Now we'll sort of focus and narrow our range of attention to start with just hearing, and then
Can you catch that? Start with what?
hearing.
Yeah.
And so if you notice, thank you for the demonstration. So if you notice anything else pulling your attention, or any resistance, or anything else that's competing for your attention, you just have background equanimity with it, not needing to judge it or admonish it, and you also don't need to dive into it. This will be a blast from the past that I did my first Sunday sit, where I'll keep hitting this bell and we'll focus on hear out. Just try to listen to the sounds in the room, outside the room, this bell, the sounds of each other. Just staying fully present moment to moment with whatever sounds you hear in the outside world. If anything else pulls your attention, you just apply background equanimity, and just come back to hearing over and over and over again. If you want an extra challenge, you can try to listen specifically to the bell, moment to moment, what it sounds like, when does it stop making a sound. Try to listen to the bell as if you've never heard it before, as if your life depended on it. As the bell fades, you can just listen to the sounds in the room, the sounds of my voice, sounds of the fan and the insects. can allow the sounds to come to you rather than needing to grab and go out to find sounds. Allow the sounds to come to you. Listen and hear without the need to judge or conceptualize what you're hearing. To see if it's possible to just purely listen, to purely hear. If you find yourself daydreaming or planning, thinking, you can just gently bring yourself back to the sounds in the room. This technique is great. This technique is very useful because it's very clear, am I staying with the sounds in the room or am I not? Great job, everyone. So now we'll transition to the discussion portion of the evening. This is a time for questions, reports, comments, anything at all that you want to talk about. It's open game. Oh.
Throughout the lecture, you mentioned a person with the name Ananda. I assume some of the people here might not know who that person is. You want to say something about him and why is he so important?
Sure. Ananda is one of the great disciples of the Buddha. He was his attendant, so it's a huge part of Buddhism because when the Buddha passed, it said that Ananda memorized was the storehouse of all the Dharma talks. So there's actually a really funny story that I read that made me feel much better about the monastery when I read about Ananda. That it's said that when the Buddha died, Ananda had not achieved full enlightenment. He had achieved initial awakening, yeah, and all the other disciples and all the other great practitioners came together and said, well, now that the Buddha's dead, we need to come together and figure out what are the rules, we need to write down the talks, we need to make this into like a system. Modern paraphrasing here, this isn't what they actually said. And all the other great disciples said, oh man, Ananda knows all the talks, but he's not fully enlightened. What are we going to do about this? We only want the fully enlightened people to be in that leadership team. So, but Ananda isn't fully enlightened. What are we going to do about that? And so they went to Ananda and they said, you know, Ananda, we love you. You're really great. You achieved initial awakening. You are so supreme and you remembered all of Buddha's talks and you took care of the Buddha for many, many years. We really want you at this conference, but you don't meet the prerequisites. You're not fully enlightened. So we're having the conference soon. You have, I don't know how much time, a few weeks, a few months, a few days, whatever it was. Should really get on it for the sake of your teacher, for the sake of the community, for your sake. I know before you were busy helping and you're doing all this work, so it was hard to practice, but now if you don't wake up, then you're not going to go to this conference, and Buddhism for the rest of its existence will suffer because we won't have your memory and your wisdom to be a part of that school. And so Ananda threw himself in and got fully enlightened and then could go and join the other monks and help create the canon that we have today of Buddhism. It's funny reading a lot of the disciples because there's a lot of these kinds of stories that make me feel like, oh, this is just like the monastery. Another story is that the Buddha is dying and several times he drops hints. He knows he's going to die soon. Let's just put that aside how he knows, but he knows he's going to die in a few weeks or days or whatever. And he drops hints to Ananda that I'm going to pass away soon. He doesn't say explicitly, he just says it subtly. And Ananda does not pick up on these hints at all. Does not know. And in Buddhism, it's said that if you ask a teacher 3 times a request, they have to, well, I actually don't know 100% what the rule is, but something like if you ask 3 times, they have to either do it or seriously consider it. But Ananda did not get the hints, and later on, when the Buddha's actually dying, Ananda's crying and says, please, for the sake of the world, please stay around longer. We really need your wisdom. What are we going to do? You're really important. Please stay for our sake. And the Buddha admonishes him and says, well, you are not mindful. I dropped hints many times. You did not pick up on any of them. Had you picked it up on it and asked me then each time, maybe I'd stick around, but too late. This happens a lot of times at the monastery where whoever the teacher, whoever's in charge of something will drop some clear hints, and whoever's in charge of that responsibility is completely oblivious, and then something happens where we correct that person for being mindless and not paying attention. So I highly recommend reading the stories of the Buddha's disciples. They're very, at least for me, they're very relatable and entertaining. There's one last story I'll share, which is when the Buddha was dying, he gave some last instructions, but his very last instruction, if I remember this correctly, which I might not, so you should look it up because I might be wrong, but I think the last instruction he gave, according to what I read in this one book, which based on my memory, enough qualifications? Yeah. His very last instruction was he named one particular monk, and he said that monk is excommunicated. He's not part of the order of monks anymore. I don't remember why, because he was angry or had done something that broke the rules. And he told Ananda this. And so Ananda went to the other monks after the Buddha died and said, here were the last instructions of the Buddha. The very last one was we're supposed to excommunicate this guy, Tim. Let's call him Tim. His name's not actually Tim, but my memory is not as good as Ananda's. And all the monks were scared. They're like, wow, Tim's a really big guy. He's kind of scary. He's very argumentative. I don't want to. Ananda, Buddha told you, so you should go tell Tim that he's excommunicated. And Ananda was like, no, I'm scared. I cannot do this by myself. I cannot do this. Which is often what happens in a monastery, where you say, someone really needs to, I don't know, give this feedback to someone. And then we go, well, technically it's the opposite's role to give feedback, but it's about the kitchen, so maybe the kitchen manager should give it. But you're the teacher, so it makes sense that the teacher would give the feedback. And we just go, and then someone decides. Or we say, you know what, I'll come with you. Which is exactly what happened. They said, okay, we'll send 4 of you over. 4 of you go, give the feedback. And what's great is they told this guy, Tim, and he fainted apparently at the news. And he didn't realize the error of his ways were so severe, and he immediately knew that the only thing that could possibly bring him back into the order of monks was to get enlightened. So he threw himself into practice and got enlightened and came back to the monks and apologized, and they let him back in. And I thought that was a great example of tough love, and also I liked the idea of these fully enlightened monks still being scared of this other monk and going, I don't want to deal with this, you deal with it. I have equanimity, but I want to give you the opportunity to test your equanimity. So thanks for asking that. Really good stories. Jesse.
I kind of feel like I want to bring the discussion back to what it's like to face something that you have judgments about,
Mm-hmm.
and that you have a desire to let go of those judgments in practice, and what's that about? That I experienced when you mentioned in your story what came out, on top for me was fear.
Hmm.
That if I let go of this judgment about something, you know, if I allow what is to be okay with it. The most interesting or what comes to mind is that the fear factor changes.
Hmm.
That I am less afraid and less anxiety exists if I can let go of judgment.
Hmm.
Is it okay that somebody, somebody who was going to come in as a business partner is leaving? Is that okay?
Hmm.
But I have a lot of fear about it. Can I be okay with having that fear and let it go? Can I be okay with that person leaving? All that, and how it comes down to fear, letting go of fear, or
Hmm.
that's all.
Hmm.
It's just like when I'm letting go, say, of this, a roommate leaving or a business partner leaving, for whatever reason, can I be okay with it?
Mm-hmm.
And if I can't be okay with it, it creates the problem.
Hmm.
If I can't be okay with what the Buddha says, it creates a problem. If I can't be okay with somebody's behavior, that is what creates the problem as opposed to.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you a few questions? So there's maybe judgment about a person, maybe about yourself, but mainly about this person or the situation.
Or maybe about myself,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe about that I would be under an illusion that would happen,
Right.
or I would be under the illusion that person was committed
Mm-hmm.
to the project and is not, or that I would be under the illusion that my presence and behavior is creating enough stability to let the ongoing thing happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go back.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the most immediate thing that comes up for me is the pain of a broken agreement or relationship or commitment or shared idea.
And this, of course, is an example, but there's probably many daily things that come up that
Right.
need to be, I could just say, oh, I'm tired again.
Right. Yeah, I think you're speaking to something very important that I think my sense is that modern life has a lot of pains and sorrows, and we don't often give each other or ourselves time to just feel that, to allow that to happen because they're real. If I feel pain, that's real regardless of whether it's justified or rational or whatever. If I'm hurting, I'm hurting. And a lot of times I'll create stories around it about how I shouldn't be feeling bad, or they're the ones that should feel bad, or the system is broken. And those things can all be true. I'm not saying that any of those judgments aren't true, but it's because I don't want to feel the pain a lot of times. And so the equanimity practice of accepting and allowing and feeling to whatever extent is appropriate. Sometimes it's not appropriate to just go full out on something, but to whatever extent that it's appropriate, feeling, willingness to feel it fully and allow ourselves to let the world impact us, let the world touch our heart, because it is, whether we want to or not. And then there's this other side about objective reality of how to move forward. What are my boundaries? I have to pay a lease, or I have to live somewhere. If I'm not going to do what the Buddha did, or be a peace program where I'm willing to just let anything happen. But if I have commitments and responsibilities, and even Peace Pilgrim had certain responsibilities, and I'm sure held certain boundaries. How do I, in the future, hold certain boundaries and change my behavior, and also make sure that other people are less likely or don't have the option to cross my boundary.
But what I was really pointing out is, what I was seeing was that having a reaction to something, judging something, not allowing something to just be, is a large part of the problem.
Right. Yes.
And when that is not there,
Right.
even for the moment, because perhaps it would reemerge, but for the moment, you can what else is possible?
Yeah.
You can allow yourself to be more present, and maybe something else is possible.
Yeah. No, that's very good. The reaction you have can oftentimes create the suffering. As Shinzen says, pain times resistance equals suffering. And so there's a way where we can feel the pain without the resistance, and it's much more manageable and leaves less of a mark than if we resist and react to the pain, which is still painful, but it's not suffering. So it's very wise to point that out. Yes.
At some point, I would like to hear more about using skillful speech to give feedback, clear feedback in the workplace. And I had an experience just recently where I had to give feedback, and I probably shouldn't have. That's a very judgmental moment in my life, where a trigger was clearly pushed within me, and I ended up, basically saying, "Can't you see how totally sexist you are? You're objectifying women, and you can make it straight into you don't deserve to be breathing air." Stuff like that. But then I felt miserable for days. And the other person, unless it's so I really would like to know how to do that better, because it was actually at the point where I was saying, you know, I don't even think I'll go to meditation today. You know, just, you know, that the whole thing was stopping me. And I'm glad I came because I do see things a little more clearly now.
Mm-hmm.
But I would personally look back to the topic of
Mm-hmm.
more in-depth discussion sometime.
Right. So you were talking with someone, and then you got triggered, you said, because they probably said something that was not appropriate or insensitive in some way. And then sexist, right. They were wrong, definitely. And then you expressed some things to them that afterwards maybe you felt regretful about how you expressed it, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think what I said
Right.
needed to be expressed,
Right.
but I think how it said it was
Right.
not skillful.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah. Well, one thing is, it's good that you noticed this. I think this is very insightful that Peace Program talks about. There's a story where the FBI or the police talk to Peace Program. They say, what would you do if someone threatened your life? Would you kill that person? And Peace Program says, that would never happen. And so the officer says, well, what if it did happen, though? What would you do? And she said, well, that wouldn't happen. And then finally, they just said, yeah, but okay, well, what if it happened? And she said, okay, hypothetically, just because you keep asking me, no, I wouldn't do anything. Even though it wouldn't happen, but hypothetically, if it happens, I wouldn't do anything. And Sori also talks about this, our teacher, about, it's very clear in our practice too, I think, if we have enough clarity like you had, that the moment we think a positive thought about other people, we're the first ones to benefit. And when we think negatively about ourselves or other people, we're often the first person that gets hurt. And so, if we hurt other people, we're really also hurting ourselves. Sometimes we don't really have control over it, seems like, but nevertheless, it seems the case that that's true when that happens. Which is kind of good, because then we don't have to force ourselves to be good people. It's just natural that it feels better to not be violent towards other people. Which isn't to say that we're not allowing injustice to happen and we're not being passive. And your question of how do we appropriately give feedback that helps other people and leads to more goodness rather than conflict is a very, very good question that I think we desperately need to practice and learn how to do that better and better. Given we have limited time, I would give a really short answer, but I think this could merit definitely many talks, books on this could be written. One word answer would be equanimity, is if this person can say these things and in Christianity, they say, like, hate the sin, love the sinner. And there's a way in which can I have equanimity where what this person just said is not appropriate. It's not okay. It's wrong. But it does not define this person as evil, necessarily. If we have equanimity, then we're more capable of doing that. I've thought often about how do I have these kinds of difficult conversations with people, and I'm still working on it. But I think the title of the talk today about honor not so much what they're saying, but you can honor that there is a logic to what they're saying. It's not, no one inherently, like, maybe not everyone, but I think most people actually think that they're doing what's right. People aren't just saying mean things because they think it's wrong and they like that. So you can sort of honor that there's somehow this makes sense to this person and they actually think it's correct and good if everyone believed this. But you don't have to believe, it doesn't mean you're buying into it, and it doesn't mean you're believing it, it doesn't mean that you support it. But you're willing to kind of step into their delusion and see what the logic is. And then maybe they'll feel like you're on the same page. You at least understand their point of view, and then you can work to give them more perspective. But oftentimes I find when I go to talks about gender or race or any hot button topic, the first day is just filled with people upset with each other because there's a lot of reactivity and no one is honoring anyone in that room. And then by the second day, as you said, that regret and that sadness and that pain is felt, and they want to have a more productive conversation. So that's possible. But it really takes, it's good that we're all here practicing because then we can learn how to not identify with whatever's being said or whatever's happening, and at the same time, be with them, but also give them appropriate feedback that doesn't come from a place of hatred or violence, but actually a place from compassion. Of, wow, it actually really hurts to hear you say this. It hurts me to think that you have these views. It hurts to hear these views. This is painful, and out of a place of love, I want to work on this. Rather than what we often do, which is understandable because we don't get much training in this. You know, when I was in high school, they like stopped teaching civics, which was really strange to me. I was like the last class that ever had civics. But I just forgot what I was thinking when I said that. Yeah. Engaging with them. Well, anyway. Engaging with them and people ultimately want to feel like emotionally met when they're in that space. And logic doesn't really work oftentimes. No one really cares about the stats and the figures and the research when they're in an emotional space. And so the willingness to meet them emotionally, if that's appropriate and if that's available, and then from there, then you can ask questions like an IT person of, how do you know this is true? What led you to think this? Have you considered this? But if they don't feel like they're being honored, then it's just automatically already a conflict. I actually just recently read this really wonderful book by, I think it's called Cave in the Snow. It's about the second Western English. It's an English woman. It's the second Westerner to ever become a Tibetan nun, and she spent 12 years in a cave in the Himalayas, 12,000 feet in the air, after already doing like 10 years of hardcore monastic practice, and she's still alive today, actually, and she's an amazing figure. She spoke out about gender issues in Buddhism and told Dalai Lama to his face about the problems in Buddhism, and she's a very inspiring, amazing woman. And but she talks about, on one hand, even though she's working on a lot of these gender issues, she meets a lot of these angry people that just want to hurt. This reactivity of just, I've been wronged, I want to hurt you back. And she says, that's not going to work. We need everyone. And so So, hate the sin and still love the sinner. But that also means that you have to do a lot of inner work as well. A longer answer than I was expecting, but hopefully we can touch on it more in the future.
Can you say the name of that book again?
Cave in the Snow, I believe. It's called Tenzin Pa. I don't know the Tibetan, but it's like Pamo. Oh, you know it. Yeah. It was written in the 90s, I think. It's a really good book. So I think that's it. Thanks everyone for coming out.